Hi, I'm Dario Cannizzaro, and you might recognize me for... Thank you, Lucia, for giving me the opportunity to ramble a bit about my craft. So I have been writing since I was 7 years old. Of course, I started writing in Italian, which is my mother tongue, but then I quickly switched to English. Actually, quick detour. Every time people know that I write in English, being Italian, they ask me, why do you write in English? And I come up with this weird and long kind of excuses or try to explain really why I do that. But I stumbled upon a Jorge Luis Borges interview, and he says it much better than me. I'll condense it for you, but basically boils down to the fact that English has two different roots, and so it has so many words, and basically it's a very cool language. Yeah, he explains it better than me, definitely. Go watch it. Anyway, I have written short stories that have been published a bit here, there, and everywhere. I have written short movies, I've written a novel, I've written movies, which haven't been produced yet. And I wrote recently audio series, and one is going to come out very soon, so please check it out if you want to. Now, I believe I'm still at the beginning of my journey. However, I wanted to share some of the things that I've learned with you, and I really hope it's going to be worth your time. But if not, just go watch some Jorge Luis Borges interviews and, we'll call it even. Number one, if you want to write, read. Yeah, I know it kind of sounds stupid, but it isn't. So, Ira Glass said about becoming an artist that you get into the game because you have a killer taste. And it's the killer taste that you have that's going to bring you somewhere. So the first thing you need to do is you need to develop that kind of killer taste. And it can be for anything, right? It's your killer taste. So it can be for your young adult novel. It can be for movies. It could be for weird science fiction books about alien tentacles that colonize Earth. Whatever floats your boat. But you need to develop the killer taste. Which means consume and read all the art that you can find about the things that you love, and as much as you can. And of course, if you want to write a novel, you should read novels. If you want to write a movie, you should watch movies, but also read screenplays, because there's a big difference between screenplays and novels, but I'll touch on that later. Again, I'm just going to share what I know. And number two, once you think you have a killer taste, well, really, pray your God, because the things you'll do will suck, especially in the beginning. And they will, I promise. Maybe they will be awesome for some people, and people are gonna tell you that you're amazing, but for you, because of that killer taste, you're gonna hate them. But this is exactly why you're in the game, right? So you will need to match what you're doing with your taste. And you're gonna suck for a while, but again, you just need to stick with it. So my suggestion for this, as an artist, it takes a long time to live with this. Because what's going to happen is that your killer taste is going to keep going, so you probably will never catch up to what you really like and what you do. And I think this is a blessing, but it can be a curse sometimes. So just watch out for that. Number three, you are developing a killer taste, and that's awesome, but you should also learn your craft. So read books about your craft, especially if they're written by people or artists you love and respect. Now, I can give you 1,000 recommendations, but I'm going to stick to two. Number one is On Writing by Stephen King. Amazing book. I think anyone that is trying to write anything should read it at least once in their life, and you're gonna find so many cool things in that book that you're really gonna just thank me if you haven't read it yet. The other one is How Not to Write a Screenplay by Danny Martin Flynn. And this one is a very different beast, because screenplays are different beasts, but it's very cool because it gives you a lot of insight of what you shouldn't do when writing a screenplay. And a lot of those things will apply also to other kind of writing, but writing a screenplay, it's very different. So those are my two recommendations. Okay, a third one, who am I kidding? Life's Work by David Milch. But please, don't come to me when you're crying, because that book is heart-wrenching, but an insanely cool tool for writers. Now, number four or something. Novels take talent, screenplays take technique. Now, I've read this in one of the books that I mentioned just before. Writing a novel is a lonely job. It's sleepless night, it's research rabbit holes, and you need to chisel away and create the perfect product. Hemingway said, writing it's easy. You just sit at your typewriter and bleed. I think it's right. Scripts are a similar beast in the sense where you still have a story, you still have the story beats that you need to follow, but they are not a finished product. They are just the blueprint for the finished product. So the job of the screenwriter is not really to show off how cool you are and how good you are in writing. Of course, you need to be very good. It takes a lot of technique to write a good screenplay, let alone a great one. But the job of a screenwriter is actually to make sure that the blueprint of the movie you have it's perfectly clear, and it's actually projecting the movie in the heads of the people that are actually going to make them, which is the director and everyone else. So when you're writing a screenplay, there's lots of rules that you need to keep in mind, and you need really to just put your ego aside and distill the story to its most fundamental beats. And I like this idea of putting the ego aside. It's really liberating for writers. And I think it makes you a much better writer, regardless if you want to write movies or not, to try and write screenplays, because there's so many constraints that it's actually pretty cool when you have to work into those constraints and you learn to work with those constraints. It's gonna make you a better writer. And last but not least, the community of screenwriters is actually pretty cool. Because of the collaborative nature of the job, screenwriters are much more open to feedback. So it's going to be very easy to find the writing group where you can exchange scripts and get notes on your own script. Now, this process, it's going to have a great effect. So, because it's going to create a thicker skin. So regardless of screenwriting or not, you need to have feedback, because you need to have a thick skin as an artist or you won't make it. And number two, it's going to improve your craft, because you're going to have a lot of notes from people. But this brings us to the next point, which is number 17, which is, if someone tells you that something is wrong in your story or in what you're writing, well, they're most probably right. But if they tell you how to fix it, then they are most certainly wrong. And I think it was Neil Gaiman that said that, right? Don't quote me. But it speaks to a bigger truth. And the bigger truth is that people have an innate sense of stories, and audiences have an innate sense of stories. So it's like we develop the sixth sense during all of our life, and we know which story works and which one doesn't. However, while this sixth sense helps us to figure out if something is not ringing correctly, if something is weird, not everyone has studied the craft enough to give you specific feedback. And to be fair, even if they did, one thing we need to learn as artists is to process the feedback. I think it's very important. We need to learn to interiorize the feedback and figure out, okay, maybe something is wrong here. How do I fix it? And that's the second part of the quote. Almost never listen to people that tell you you should do that. Doesn't work. You are the artist. You have the killer taste. Identify the problem, but then fix it yourself. Number 1982, which is write what you know. And you probably heard this like 1,000 times, but I don't think it has to be taken literally. Like, I love science fiction, I love fantasy. You see me riding a UFO here? Not really. So, and even if I play Dungeons and Dragons, I'm not slaying dragons in real life, right? So, again, it's not to be taken literally, but it really means that it's an exhortation to write things that you care about. Things that you've read so much about, that you're an expert in it. So, of course, if you're really into science fiction, and if you're really into crime, you can write a crime story set in a space station. It's probably going to be brilliant, right? But if you're not into comedy, and if you're not into romance, don't try to write the next romantic comedy, because probably it's not going to come out right. So stick with what you love. And if you do it for love, you're going to create a great thing. And number 1952 plus 6 at the 23rd. If you write as a hobby, that's awesome. But if you wake up in the middle of the night with a story idea, and if you are at work and the only thing you can think of is to write the next thing, and you are really not going out with your friends anymore and they hate you for that because you need to write another thing, this isn't a hobby. This is a calling. And if you have this calling, if you have this vocation where writing is not just I want to write because I'm cool or I like to write, but it's something that you feel deep inside, well then, set aside time and do it. Because if it's a vocation, if it's a mission, then there is something special that needs to come out. I don't know what your mission is about. I don't know what my mission is about. But again, if writing for you it's a vocation, it means that something special is ready to come out. And I can't wait to read it. So thank you very much. I hope this was worth it. And if not, go watch David Foster Wallace talking about capitalism in 2003. Bye.
Hello and welcome to Uncut with Lucia. I'm your host, Lucia Matuonto, and welcome to the RV Book Fair 2023. Please join me in welcoming my co-host for this event, Mikkelson. Mickey is the owner and publicist at Creative Edge Publicity and also the publisher of the magazine Top Shelf. So, Mickey, thank you very much for joining us today.
Lucia, thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure. It's an amazing opportunity, and I'm just really, really glad to be here. I'm Mickey. I am the owner of Creative Edge Publicity. We have over 100 authors worldwide that we represent, 3 New York Times bestsellers, 3 USA Today bestsellers. We have a multitude of international bestsellers, indie and traditional. And yes, with Amy Ravichandran, owner of Abundantly Social, I do own Top Shelf Magazine as well, magazine geared towards the literary arts, authors, and all forums around the literacy. So thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Of course, my pleasure. And today we have the pleasure of meeting with two outstanding book authors to delve into the worlds of mentorship and, of course, books. So, first, let's welcome Kalee Boisvert, a seasoned professional with over 15 years of experience in the financial industry. Kalee is also the author of Make Money Your Thing. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I'm super happy to have you. You are our cover star on the Relatable Voice magazine. And for me, it's just wonderful to have you here today, Kalee.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Next, we also have Doug Lawrence, a dedicated advocate for mental health and wellness. He is, of course, because I represent him, an author as well. His latest book is called You Are Not Alone. Thank you so much, Doug, for joining today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity and for me to finally get to meet Kalee. This is the highlight of my day.
It's actually the highlight of my day because like we're all in the same room and it's just there's a lot of love there. So having said that, let's kick off our discussion today by exploring how each of you ventured into the world of writing. Kalee, please share with us what inspired you to start writing.
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. So I love books. I have books everywhere, all over my house. And I knew from a young age that I always wanted to write a book. But early on, I kind of had the messaging that I'm not very good at writing. I would write like really long stories when I was like in grade 4 or 5. And I would be so like excited to hear the feedback from the teacher, and they wouldn't really give me any because I think they probably stopped reading after like 2 pages. And it probably wasn't the point of the assignment to make like really long-winded, adventurous stories that I was going on. So I just early on, I felt like, that kind of like, I felt defeated. I felt like maybe there's some sort of writing gene and I didn't have it. So I just sort of motored along, and next favorite thing in my life was numbers. So I pursued a career in finance, have a big love for numbers, and was doing that for several years. And then one day I was sitting in my office and I said out loud again, like it came to me, and I was like, I want to write something. And a colleague was just happened to be walking by and heard me say it out loud, my random ramblings to myself. And he said, I was at a networking event. I met this book coach. Maybe, you should get in touch with her. So I got her card and I reached out to her. And like, that was sort of the beginning of that, reigniting that writing spark in me. So she just, really like built me up to believe that, well, you're not like, there's not this special writing gene. If you want to write something, you can write something. And we started with just like articles, like that felt like I was just kind of like dipping my toes into the whole writing experience. And as I started doing the articles and I was getting more ideas, like the creative mind, the creative juices start flowing. And I was like, well, I want to write a book for kids. And then I was like, and I want to write a book for women. And so she was there with me, like rooting me on and saying, absolutely, you can do it. So it was like finally hearing, I guess, someone believe in you and encourage those dreams. It just felt like unstoppable. And I was, the rest is history, I guess. And I wrote my 2 books, both, of course, money related. So I had to like weave it into my passion for numbers. And so I wrote Money Wise, Mabel's Bursting Bank, which is a kid's book about a little girl learning about money, which was really inspired by me having a daughter. And when she was really young, just thinking about how could I teach her about money? And so I wrote that book. And then I wrote Make Money Your Thing, which was a book to build confidence in women around money. Because what I was seeing time and again in my business was women seemed to be a little bit more hesitant when it came to money, finances, investing. And I wanted to change that. I wanted women to believe in themselves and feel confident and do the things they need to do to help build wealth. I'm a financially independent woman. I'm a single mom. And so I want all women to know that you can do this. Absolutely. Probably like that same encouragement my writing coach gave to me. So that's why I wrote that book. And now I have like more ideas for new books to come too. I love it.
Excellent. Actually, I was browsing on your website and I see that you say money is emotional, and I agree very much.
It is. Yeah. And I think that plays a huge role in women's relationship with money. That's why I wanted to write a book specifically for women, because I think as women, we get that emotional connection and the feelings that come up around money and finances.
Thank you. And Doug, what motivates you to pen You Are Not Alone?
I think I would probably, I need to take us back to sort of the beginning of my journey as an author. And I had been writing a number of different blog articles and posting them on my blog, and they just kept growing and growing and growing. And I had a colleague who I'd gone through RCMP training with, and he was writing a book, and what he was doing was it was inspirational messages to his children that he would send out every morning. And somebody had said to him, you need to put this in the format of a book. So he did that. And then he sort of grabbed me by the collar and said, listen, you've got all this great story, all these great stories that we need you to kind of write these or put these into a book. And I'm sure that if you do that there'll be a really great message. And so he hooked me up with a ghostwriter that worked with me to pull all this together. And it ended up that the book is The Gift of Mentoring, and I don't know if it's going to show up there that well or not, but The Gift of Mentoring was sort of basically mentoring 101, for lack of a better choice of words. And my intent behind it was to use the book as a vehicle to get the message out about mentoring. And I was just mentoring at that stage. And then as time progressed and people read The Gift of Mentoring, and the comments I got back was, when I read your book, The Gift of Mentoring, it's as though you were sitting beside me on a park bench and reading the story to me. And so I went, okay, if I've done it once, I should be able to do it twice. And that's where, we came along with people were going to the hospital to visit people who were dealing with all kinds of different ailments and stuff. And we got into the aspect of grief and cancer and mental health, post-traumatic stress. And I had dealt with PTS as a result of my service in the police force. So it seemed to be a natural evolution from where I was to where I needed to go. And You Are Not Alone is my step towards getting people to understand that mentoring can be that bridge, or that fill that gap for mental health if it's put into place in the right context. And so You Are Not Alone tells that story. You Are Not Alone tells a lot about my own personal journey, and it's also provided the fuel that I need to have for writing of the next book.
And I noticed also when I interviewed you that your book focuses on storytelling. you bring some stories to your readers.
Yes, that's true. And rightly or wrongly, I do love to tell a story, and people always will say, he's probably got a story for that too. But that's how you can bring out some of the best for me. I came across some stuff. I had computer issues and all that sort of stuff, and I was dealing with that, and I came across some material that dealt with the passing of my wife. And as a result of that, I came to realize that there's actually, I have blocked some of the things that had taken place, that I've actually mentally blocked, and I need to figure out how am I going to work my way through that? What is my coping mechanisms and all that stuff? So it's been interesting, to say the least.
It's a testament to you, Doug, for everything you've been doing. It's just incredible how you're able to hold everything together and focus on all of that. And I've worked with you for 3+ years, and the messaging has been the same the last 3 years. And just kudos to you, because you're a very strong person in a good way.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now let's delve into the inspiration behind your respective works. Okay.
So, Kalee, you've had 2 Amazon #1 hot releases. You've been on multiple podcasts. You've been on national TV talking about money matters, and you've been on magazine covers. What was the driving force behind Make Money Your Thing, but actually both books?
Yeah, that sounds scary. I'm like a quiet introvert. So you're saying all that stuff. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah,
how did I do that?
We talked about it, right? So how did you do it? What's the secret?
Yeah. I mean, I think it is like going with your why and your passion. And, that was for me why I wrote these books. It's all about like financial literacy and the idea, like I grew up really poor, and that was like my early beginnings. And I think it really influenced too why I wrote these books, because it's this idea of like when you grow up in poverty and you see that and the stress and the struggle, and I saw what, my mom had to go through. It was like, I don't want anyone to have to go through that again. I want things to be different. And then as you like learn this information, you're like, oh, it's not, that top secret, and it's not out of reach for everyone, that anyone can do some of these, smart money moves and things like that exactly where they are, and still like, make their situation even better. And so there's this like, poverty doesn't have to be this cycle that we perpetuate, and we can change that. And I think that's so powerful, because when I realized that and started changing things in my own life, that was like the catalyst for me of like, I need to share this with other people. There's probably other women that feel very limited by where they're at in their financial situation. And so I wanted to share this book, and it includes a lot of stories as well of women I have come across over the years, women I've worked with. And I really wanted to share those stories because they're so inspiring as well. And I want women to see these women and see parts of themselves in them. And I think like a lot of my readers have commented on, I'm just like Cynthia, where she, struggles with spending money and things like that after all her saving, or like they identify with these people, which of course I changed their names, but they identify with these stories. And that was kind of the point, because they were themes I was seeing time and again. And so it's like, if they can identify and see themselves, and then they can see, what's on the other side of that, like women going through divorce and just the overwhelming stress of that in itself. And then there's the financial element where a lot of women weren't involved in the finances. And so it's a really scary event. And I share stories of these women who have gone through it and like where they're at on the other end of it, and how they're like thriving and doing so well. And so it's just, I hope like women can read these stories and feel this inspiration and this hope of like, this is possible and I can do this. I don't have to be just like, you know, a passive observer. Money is happening to me, that I can be an active participant. I can take action. I can do things, and I can have these dreams and actually achieve these dreams. So that was like really my inspiration. It was like early beginnings, not having money, but then realizing how I could learn these concepts and build my own wealth and then share that with other women.
That's amazing. I'm so proud that you were writing for us.
Thank you.
It is like a roadmap for your readers.
It is. I hope so. And doing like the signings, I told Mickey like my first signing was awful, and he kind of gave me like a little pep talk and, you know, what I can expect and things like that. So I, you know, got right back out there and I did another one, and it went so much better. And that was he said, just think of it as an opportunity to connect. And so I had those words in my head when I went in the book signing. I was like, don't need to sell a single copy. My intention is just to connect with readers. And it happened, and that's what I did. And it was women coming up to me saying things like, you know, I just received this inheritance and I'm really nervous and scared and I don't know what to do. And I was like, well, you know, then read this book. Like, this is, you know, people, I have you in mind. And women coming up to me saying they have adult daughters who they really want to, you know, share this information with, because they didn't feel like they gave them enough financial literacy opportunities maybe when raising them and things like that. Or women coming up and saying, I was raised by a single mom too, and having conversation about it. Like, it's so amazing when you do that connection and connect with readers and see how you're having an impact. Like, it's the funnest thing as an author, when you realize you're reaching people that you would have never like probably spoken to or reached prior to. So it's like, it's such like a gift or like a reward of, you know, when you get that book out into the world and hearing those things.
Doug, your book signing pep talk's coming, I promise you.
I don't know. I guess I'm supposed to look forward to this, or
Kalee will give you notes. It's all good.
well, we are going to talk, and so compare notes. Yes, definitely.
Go ahead, Lucia. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Kalee. And Doug, can you tell us about the inspiration behind You Are Not Alone? Actually, I love this title.
I do too, and obviously a few other people must too, because I see them using that phrase quite often about saying that you are not alone. And so in any event, the inspiration, I think to some extent, I was feeding off of the gift of mentoring, because that was sort of kind of my bar setting idea more than anything else, was that, okay, you've done this once, you've written a book. Was it a bestseller? No, but why did you write the book in the first place? And behind it was, with the book, I felt that here was an opportunity to, even if I gave away, kind of like you had mentioned, Kalee, about giving the books and stuff like that, was that if I gave the book away to somebody, that was one more person that got the message. And if that's all it took to change that person's life, then it was a success. It doesn't matter whether I gave the book away or not. It's now they get to go through and listen to the stories and be that person sitting on the park bench with me sitting beside them, reading the book to them. So it was all about that. And then the You Are Not Alone came from conversations with people that said, you've done it once, you should be able to do it again. And it's an important message. It's when you start to talk about the aspects of mental health and mental well-being, and you get into the topic, you know, of grief and all those different topics, they're front of mind in most people's life today. And anything that I can do to help them navigate the healing journey through You Are Not Alone, anything or everything that I do is focused on, how can I be of service? How can I help them? How can I give them the tools that they need in order to be able to navigate their way through that? Because God only knows there are people out there today that are reaching out, and there's no one there to take them by the hand and say, I can help you. I'll walk beside you. Let's go on that journey together. So it's been, for me, the inspiration has been wanting to make a difference and wanting to make a change and sort of filling that gap that exists in the mental health space today.
Yes, and it's so important. We need more people like you, Doug, and also as Kalee, because you are both helping many, many people. I know that Kalee also brings up some aspects. Money is also something mental, and also, Doug, that you are providing some guidance for people who don't feel like talking to other people, but if they start reading a book, maybe your book will be a way to inspire them and look for help.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that I spoke not too horribly long ago. I did a couple-hour workshop, and it was with psychiatric nurses, and what they wanted was each and every person that attended this workshop wanted to have a copy of You Are Not Alone. And so that's, we made sure that happened. And it even went to the extent of wanting to make sure that they got a signed copy of You Are Not Alone, not just getting the book, but they wanted that signed. So it's a story, but I'll make it brief. I actually drove to the neighboring city to actually sign the book because the young lady she had to leave and take off. And so I said, if you want your copy signed, just let me know. And so as a result, we connected, and I drove, it was 75 kilometers. I drove 75 kilometers, and she paid for lunch, but I signed her book for her, and she was quite happy, and she'd already been about halfway through the book by that time. So, that little gesture took us just another step further.
Wow, that's very nice.
Incredible.
Yes.
So you're gonna have to come to Lloydminster, Doug, because I'm gonna want to take you out for steak and get a signed copy of your book.
Okay, we can do that.
So it's very, very clear that nonfiction is a common thread around both of your works. Kalee, I think you're unique. I think you're an anomaly in this industry. The reason I say that is you haven't let your work experience and what you're doing from a financial aspect take away from the book when you're marketing it. The focus is always on the writing when you're in writer mode. And I think that's so impressive. And not many nonfiction people can do that. They sometimes let their careers take over the writing, and that doesn't happen with you. So kudos to you on that. But given that both your books are nonfiction, how has your background and your personal experiences shaped your approach to writing and I guess marketing the book?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I had to write them, when I did. Like, it feels like you have a lot more stories to draw on. Like, it was like years of experience. I'd been in the industry for something like probably 12 years or something when I started writing the books. And that's when I truly felt ready. Because you have like the stories and the whole idea of what you'd want to share. So I think that was really helpful for me, having the knowledge and the comfort level that really helped me with pulling the material together. But there is a whole storytelling element too, which again, working with clients over that many years, there's a lot of different stories to pull from. And then the marketing part is really interesting because I built my business from scratch. So as a financial advisor starting out, you don't have a single client, and it's like you're an entrepreneur. You have to start from nothing and get clients, build it up. And a lot of people don't make it. Like there's a very high failure rate for new financial advisors. And I knew that, again, because I'd been in the industry a while. I was working as an assistant for a different advisor. And so I fully knew that going in. But again, in my head, I have this like determination of like knowing those stats. I'm like, well, I'm going to be one of those ones to make it. And so there was a hustle in me always from the get-go of starting in this industry. And, it kind of starts to like quiet down the hustle because you're in it for years. And then you start to just sort of be able to finally like, I guess, like reap the benefits of all like the work you've done, like the hustle. You start realizing, okay, I'm getting referrals now. It's a little bit easier. So I was at that space, and then I wrote these books. And then when I thought you write a book and you put it out there and it just goes out to the world and people read it. And I was like, that is not the truth, you realize. And there's a whole nother side. So it's like, there's the writing the book, and then you think you're done, but you're not done. Then there's the marketing of the book. And that's an even, bigger endeavor maybe, or just as much work. But it was like, still in me that like the memory of the hustle. So I think it was like easy to like jump right back into that and just like go at it. Like think of creative ideas. I mean, as authors and writers, we have creative ideas in our writing. So you can sometimes think of creative ideas to think outside the box in your marketing too. And that's what I appreciate about Mickey too, is he comes up with fun, creative ideas. But yeah, the marketing piece, it's a hustle. Like you can't like really hold back. You can't really be scared of rejection or anything like that. You just have to go for it. And I think as an author, we always go back to like, I think Doug's been sharing too, is that like why, and what we're hoping like people will get out of that, our books, and how we're hoping to impact lives. So I think going in that and back to that is helpful during some of those moments, because it can feel sometimes very like disheartening, where it's just like maybe you don't feel like you're making much progress on the marketing side of things or getting awareness out there. But when you go back to that reason of like, why did I write this? And the idea of just that one person reading your book and it changing their lives, like Doug said as well, it's like it's worth it in itself, of like knowing that you've impacted someone's life to a point where you're like, wow, like I could have changed in a positive way someone's like whole life or their whole mentality about something. And that's huge. So I think it's in some of the hustle for authors. I think we have to remember, why we're doing this, and this book we wrote, that's this gift to our readers. And that's the purpose and the why. And we have to go back to that and remember it ourselves on those like hard days where you feel like you're doing all the stuff and maybe not making any like sort of progress, to always remember that, because it reminds you of like, it doesn't matter then. You can go to a book signing and sell 100 books or no books, and it's still, again, if you can connect to people or like something comes out of it, it's still worth it. So yes, the whole journey's been very interesting, and the marketing especially. And I think there's just this like hustle that I had in my career that I can sort of tap into again, and remember that it's just keep going. You don't, you don't take rejection personally, things like that. And you just got to motor along.
I feel the same way promoting each and every one of you.
Yes, actually,
It's tough.
I'm curious to know the creative ways Mickey find to promote the books.
Yeah. Well, just with my book, he's saying, like I wrote the kids book, and he's talking about, let's get this into schools. Let's start reaching out to schools. So it's just not just the typical, like your book's on Amazon, or how do you promote it there? It's just thinking, who are your readers, right? He comes at it from that perspective of like, who are the people that are going to want this book? And that's who you have to tap into.
Yep. 100%.
Wonderful. And for you, Doug, now, could you shed some light on how you strike a balance between engaging storytelling and conveying factual information in your nonfiction writing?
Oh my, that's a good question, and trying to find the balance. I don't know if there is one for me because I'm just naturally a storyteller, and I find that by telling those stories, that's what better positions or puts, you are not alone. That's what puts it sort of in front of everybody where they can make a decision, do I want to read the book and all the stories, or what is it that I want to do? And I know that um, for me and from the feedback that I've been, certainly getting back from people is that it's important to them. They want to be able to take my vision and my passion for what it is that I want to do, and they want to be able to feel that, and they want that to strike them, at the most deepest possible place that you could possibly ask for, and that's what they're looking for when they pick up You Are Not Alone. And so, I need to be able to deliver that. And certainly from a marketing perspective, and I owe a huge debt of gratitude to Mickey for all that he's done. But one of the things that that I've found is that what's helped market the book, and it's almost like it's a household name, but has been podcasts. And it's, like the Relatable Voice, for example, that has helped get the story out there, and that's what's helping make a difference in the world today, because I'm just one person. And when I look at how many people, Lucia, how many people that you touch on a daily basis, and, even if you happen to share, I was talking with this author about this book and stuff, that's one more person. That could be 1 million more people that, we get the opportunity to reach out and touch. And it's so important because You Are Not Alone does touch on, certainly a topical issue, dealing with mental health. And the next book that's coming dives even deeper into, grief and cancer and all that sort of stuff. So there'll be more, whether you like it or not, there will be more stories that are going to be told in the next book.
Wonderful. I hope I can have you again, and also Kalee. And Doug, we were talking about feedback. Kalee, as authors, we all face negative criticism from time to time. It's very normal, and we have to, accept. So how do you handle it, and what advice can you offer to fellow authors?
That's a good one. Yeah. Because when you put yourself out there, you realize that's the other side of it. You're going to get negative feedback. This is something I struggle with always as like a people pleaser, maybe recovery. I'm trying to like get through that, but you want to make everyone happy, and you want to be, everyone should love it. And hopefully, they think it's just great, and you don't want to offend anyone, and you're just like, you try so hard. And then even trying it that hard, people are not going to like it, and people will be offended for whatever reason or not, enjoy it. And so know that when you're putting yourself out there, that's just part of the process. Like when you accept things for like, oh, that's normal, it sometimes kind of feels a little bit better, because it's like you're not alone. You're not getting all this negative feedback because you suck as a writer or something. It's just that happens if you write something and put it out there to people beyond just like your mom, who of course is probably going to say positive things. But if you put it out there to just everyone, the whole world, you're gonna get some negativity. That's just, again, it's just part of the process. So if you can just decide that it's just part of the process, then you just know, oh, okay, this is normal. This is supposed to be happening. Like, I think hopefully that helps authors get through that. I received, so the only really negative feedback, because I haven't received like a lot of negative feedback on Make Money Your Thing yet. And I know, of course, again, that's part of the process. It's going to come. But on my kids' book, Money Wise Mabel's Bursting Bank, I had like a 1-star review, and she was talking about how it's so boring and da-da-da. And I just like, I thought it was so funny. Like, it made me laugh hysterically. And I shared it with my daughter, and she's like, And she said something like, this is what Ivy's response was. She's 9. She's like, don't worry about what people say. Just flip your hair and slay the day or something. That was her response to me. And it was so funny because at first I took it as like, why is she saying this in this horrible, mean person? Why would she write this? And then say it out loud to my 9-year-old who like, that's the first thing she thinks of is just like, who cares? You know, flip your hair and go on with your day or whatever. And I'm just like, wow, that's great advice from a 9-year-old. And it's just, can you, get past it that quick? Like, I think that's the thing with those like low moments of rejection. They might still hurt, like we're human, and that response might still be like, oh, that sucks, or I didn't like seeing that. But it's like, can you get out of that fast? Can you get past that really quick instead of like going inward and you know, getting all hard on yourself? It's like, can you just flip your hair and go slay the day? Because the faster you can move on and pass those things, the better. So don't let those hold you back, and don't let those, you know, not share the stories. Because I think with authors, it's like, if they have the story and they have the passion, it's meant to be shared and it's meant to be in this world. So don't ever let things like that hold you back. But that's a fun question because it is part of the process for sure.
Thank you. And I had the same situation. I had 2 stars and I said, how come? I spent the whole day like so upset. And then, you know, I just realized that we are not going to write a book and everybody is going to be praising it. It's just, as you said, part of the process. But yeah, that's okay. We learn.
And Doug, you're also an Amazon bestseller. And your topic is very, very real, but it's also, let's be honest and comparative, it's also very, very dark. So with that, how do you handle the challenge of criticism as a writer?
How I approach it is I use an 80-20 sort of rule, that I'm going to please 80% of the people most of the time, and 20% I haven't got a hope. And just doesn't matter what you say or do, or you give away copies of the book, or you do whatever you think you need to do. It's still not really going to make a difference, because you'll strike the chord, the chord for the majority of the people who actually care about mental health and mental well-being. And there's going to be that small group, that very small group, that they don't care. And it's, you know, and when I think back, because when you started talking and we were talking about feedback, I was thinking, okay, for me, what it is it's a reality check. I need to have that reality check to say, okay, so they didn't like the book. What would I need to change if I was going to change it? What do I need to change in order to maybe change their opinion of the book? And what's interesting is that you don't need to change the book at all. Just leave the book alone, because that's your kind of your flagship, your vehicle to get your message out there. But what you can change is the verbal messaging to help cover off. So I may change or alter my storyline a little bit in order to maybe partially address what the concern was for that particular individual. But I don't, when I think back, I don't, like, I've had people, not directly related to the book, but I've had people that I had one couple that indicated they wouldn't get married unless I was going to be at the wedding, because I had made such a difference in their life with mentoring and all that sort of stuff. And so you can sort of see, you know, how that could be the case had I have written the book and could have given them a copy of the book. Who knows? Maybe they would have said, you know, we want to have 100 copies of your book. We're going to put them on the table at the wedding. Who knows? I mean, you know, there's all kinds of different ways to look at it. But to be honest, I really don't let feedback, especially the negative kind, influence my messaging at all, because I just feel that my messaging is far too important, and I need to just move on past those negative comments and you know, obviously do the reality check to make sure that there may be some learning that can come from that, but for the most part, I'm heading down the road.
Sounds good. Thanks for that. So we have, I think, one question left because time is getting there, but looking ahead, and this is one I've wanted to ask you guys, let's discuss your future endeavors. Kalee, what lies ahead in your writing journey? Because inquiring minds want to know, and so does your publicist, really.
More writing. I want to like keep tapping into the different age ranges. So my next book, I want it to be really aimed at like teenagers and young adults, because I think that's such a important time. It's like the time in your life where you're really actually starting to earn money and things like that. So it's just, I think it's like my whole messaging is like financial literacy for the masses. And so I have to keep kind of, though, making something very specific to them, the different kind of age ranges or groups of people, I think. So, and hopefully more with the kids' books too, because I love that. Like despite the negative feedback, I've had so much positive feedback, and it's so cute seeing like little children reading your book at bedtime. And I'm like, oh, that just like touches my heart. I want more of that.
It's
Stay tuned, guys. Press release coming out very, very hopefully soon.
Yes.
And Doug, what can we expect from you? More books, more courses, more mentorship?
Well, all of the above, I guess, would be the best way. But certainly, I've been engaged and I think that You Are Not Alone has played a significant part in that. But I've been engaged to do some work with organizations that are dealing with addiction and mental health and all of that. So I'm truly blessed that that's taken place. There is another book. I'm probably, what am I, about 30 pages left of going through editing it to the advice I was given, and it's sound advice. It was to change the storyline and make it more about Deborah, my wife, who I lost to cancer. So I've been going through and doing some of that to get the book, because the book is going to be titled The Silent Pandemic. And it deals primarily, without giving away a whole bunch of stuff, but what it touches on cancer, grief, and a number of different things. And I've become more and more involved in the bereavement aspect of helping people get through dealing with the loss of a loved one and that. So I'm part of some support groups and stuff like that, where we're doing some of that. In addition to that, I do recall a conversation that I had with a certain publicist where I committed to a book a year. So it's going to be more trips to the resort community in British Columbia to go away on a writer's retreat like I did once before. I'm going to have to utilize that little technique and do that. But that's some of the things that are sort of on the horizon for me.
Thank you. Sounds great. A lot of plans. And we are finishing now. And I want to express my gratitude to our incredible guests for your time and your insights. Kalee, thank you very much. You're doing great work. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Of course. And Doug, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to speak with you again.
Again, yes.
Again. Thank you immensely for being here. And also, I want to say thank you for Mickey, one of my favorite people ever. Thank you very much for your support and for being my co-host today. It was great.
Lucia, thank you for your time. being who you are, being an incredible co-host, and just this experience. Kalee, Doug, last thing. Where can we find you guys? One at a time. Ladies first, always.
Well, that's nice. So my website is probably the best spot. So it's just my first name, last name.com. So KaleeBoisvert.com, KaleeBoisvert.com.
Doug?
And for me, probably the website is one place, www.talentc, so the word talent, letter C on the end.ca. I've got an active presence on LinkedIn, so please, do a search and then just direct message me on LinkedIn. And what the heck, we can even connect and be friends on LinkedIn. But what I always tell people is that you can also directly reach out to me. And sometimes when you need help or you just need to chat, getting a hold of me by email is sometimes the best possible way. And that's doug.lawrence, LAWRENCE, at talentc.ca. And I'll get back to you as quickly as I possibly can. And I won't leave you on the island by yourself.
And you can see both Kalee and Doug on my website at www.creativeedge.services. And yeah.
Thank you. And also, you can find more information about their books on our website, www.relatable-media.com. And stay tuned for our next panel. So thank you for tuning in to Uncut with Lucia, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.